Hello, welcome back for our next episode of Dragon Age. I am really excited to see what the party ends up doing tonight, because there was the three witches, I think, from the last session, that were totally nice, normal people that definitely didn't cause any paranoia in the party. So I'm excited to see what happens next in our story here. Before we jump in, I do need to say a few quick words about our sponsors, which are Fundamental RPG. It is a simple D20 system that's not tied to any genre, so you can use it to play any style of game that you would like, from high fantasy to sci-fi and everything in between. You can pick up the physical copies on Amazon, or if you prefer a PDF, you can pick that up at ko-fi.com/Raven, like it's spelled at the very bottom of the screen. Also, go check out Die Hard Dice, one of our other sponsors. They sell incredible polymer metal dice sets and accessories. If you use the code ANIMUS with a capital A, I believe starting today through late December, I'll have to grab the exact dates. Normally it's 10% off, but if you use the code ANIMUS with capital A, in between that time, it'll be 15% off your entire order. So very cool stuff that was just announced today. And then I highly recommend checking out the Dreamscape Nightshade. Tripping over my words there. Mythica Dreamscape Nightshade set. They are absolutely gorgeous metal dice with this rich, deep sort of purple with little pink highlights to them. Very satisfying to roll. Definitely go check that out. There's a link direct to that in chat. All of that being said, one more thing that is worth mentioning. The Kickstarter for Checkmate just went out today. That is a tabletop book that is got a lot of secret society and intrigue type stuff going on with it. Highly recommend checking it out. I did some work on it for the fiction portion of it, as well as some art that's going to make it into the book. There's a link to that Kickstarter in chat, or if you're on Kickstarter, just look up Checkmate TTRPG, and yeah, give it a back if you can. Would appreciate it. I think that is everything. So we're going to pass it off to Matt to introduce our players and take it away.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Matt. I am the GM of this fantastic crew of people who are currently having a nice dream sequence interrupt their travel montage like you do. So, hello. I am Matt. I'm a content creator of various stripes. We'll get to that later on tonight, though. We're going to go around and introduce everybody and who they're playing. And we're going to start with Pat. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Pat. I'm a Tactric online, on Twitter, on Twitch, mostly there. Also YouTube, I guess, kind of. Yes. I do games here and on my channel sometimes. And I usually post about them on Twitter when I do. And I'm playing Calix tonight. Calix is our Navarin Mortalitasi mage. He is indoor underground boy who likes reading and hanging out with graves.
Very cool, very cool. Next up, we have Anna. Hello.
Hey, I am Anna, aka Archival Dust Bunny, a queer and trans advocate, museum worker, and TTRPG streamer. And I am playing Mariana Del Morte, a very personable rogue, who the party still hasn't figured out is a crow. And she was very nice to these women, and I don't know why they stuck us in a dream sequence. I'm still kind of bitter about that. But that's all I got.
Next up, we have Icy Historian. Hello.
Hello. I am Icy Historian at Icy Historian, all of the places on the internet that I feel like being found. You can see me sometimes remembering that I have Twitter and tweeting about games and social studies education. So, yep, super exciting and cool. Yeah, I play games with people. These people, in fact, are many of the people that I play games with, but sometimes I play games with different people. And I play Asala Polanius, who is a Tevinter Altus, who has been sent on a very important mission, and that very important mission is to hopefully die horribly and never make it back to the Imperium. And she's feeling real bummed because she really connected with, like, Second Witch from the left, last session and thought we really had something, and now I feel like some trust has been broken and relationships need to be mended, and I just really don't know where we stand right now.
The whole party's gonna dunk on this because of how I acted last time. I get it. It's fine. Next up we have Rafiki. Hello.
Hello, good to see you. Good to see everybody here. I'm Rafiki. When I'm not playing here with these wonderful people, I'm on sometime a TTRPG content streamer and content creator here on the GR crew, where we do a lot of charity stream. Speaking of, I'm gonna do one this Sunday on Friends channel, where I'm gonna be playing for the first time Blades in the Dark, so that should be fun. I've been looking for a long time to play that, so I'm gonna be playing a doctor, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. But also outside of that, I'm sometime here and there semi-professional musician composer. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And tonight, as I've been playing also the other nights, and for the foreseeable future here, I'll be playing as Adrian of Elwood, a Dalish elf.
Very, very cool. Blades in the Dark is an amazing game. You will enjoy that a lot.
Oh, I'm sure I will.
Our last player, who is not with us yet but should be joining us as soon as she is able to, is Janie. Check her out on her Twitter, listed there below her frame. She should be along shortly, and we'll get her in and introduced when she shows up. Y'all are all sleeping nicely. We're going to start. Who do we want to start with? This is the question, right?
Roll D4.
You know what? I do have a dice roller available to me. So we're just going to do 2. We're going to start with Mariana then.
Cool. Yeah, I was hoping for that, definitely.
The dice have chosen. There is a pop. Like a log on a fire pops, and it startles you awake, Mariana. And you're still in the hollow there under that giant tree, but there's no one else around. And almost immediately you can kind of tell that this isn't really where you were before. Like, it's all kind of gray outside. All the colors are a little washed out. This is going to be true for everybody. So, you are awoken by this popping sound of a fire that has been banked up again.
Sitting up, I immediately check for the dagger strapped to my leg.
It's not there.
Oh, that makes
And
me
this
feel
is
great.
a fun moment. When you go for it, it's just like the clothes you're wearing, how it feels, everything doesn't feel like what you had.
Okay.
It feels like the training clothes you had when you were much younger, when you were just starting out with the crows.
Okay. So looking down, yeah, it's just plain black tunic and pants with just simple leather armor over it. Looking around, do I see anybody else?
Across the fire from you is the first master you had, the first instructor that you had. Who was this person? What? Male, female, elf, human, dwarf, Kunari?
She's human. I feel like she's been under Katarina Delamartis the entire time. That was who Reyna introduced her to.
Okay. Perfect. So Katarina is sitting there also in basic, just black tunic, leather armor. There's a couple knives strapped to her belt, and a bow next to her with a quiver over her shoulder. And she is sitting up legs tucked under her, and she is poking at the fire with a stick. And she looks up at you when she wakes up, when you kind of sit up.
I wasn't expecting to see you here. What is this?
This is probably a test. Isn't everything?
Yes.
You lost your sister again, didn't you? She got away from you in the streets this time, or was it out in the woods? Or did she beat you across the river? How'd she get away from you this time?
This time you sent her away.
And she does this like, you wound me pose. Why I took her away? Do you mean I sent her out on assignment? Was she not ready yet?
She was. But we always go alone. We always go together. This was our first time going alone. You sent her north and you sent me to Kirkwall.
To see if you were ready to be a flock of your own, or if the two of you had to fly together, little bird.
Well, now she's missing, and I'll get up and I'll go and sit across from her with the fire in between us.
She's missing, and I've sent you after her. Did I? Or did you push to go?
I received summons like I always do. I don't know that if I pushed it would make any difference.
She stirs the fire for a little bit, and she looks up at you again and just goes, maybe this is still a test. Tell me, Mariana, are you ready to fly alone?
I think so. I would rather not, but I think I can if needed.
And your master sits back and looks at you, and we're going to pop over to somebody else. We will come back. That's not all that's happened. We're going to have multiple turns here. Let's hop over to Asala next, I think. Asala, there is a pop of a fire. And I'm already changing my mind. When you wake up, you are not in the hollow under the tree. Tell me about the room that you lived in when you were a brand new mage, when you first got brought to the attention of the mages in the Tevinter Imperium. What was that first training room where you lived in like?
So, Asala from the jump, I think carries some, I think she comes from a family that has been at various times somewhat troublesome. And it was sort of a begrudging acknowledgement of her abilities, and perhaps out of the hope that she could be brought into the fold if she were trained at a young age. And her first room is like, it's like sending like an 8-year-old to a college dorm. Like everything is big and like it's like kind of cold and austere. And I think she was always just a little bit smaller and a little bit weaker and a little bit like, because she was physically like younger. And I imagine like stone, it's cold. She sometimes has a hard time keeping the fire going. without cheating and using her magic. And a lot of the sort of wonder and the like importance and the prestige of where she is lost a little bit on her because she's really kind of too young to see it, and instead is just, I think, at the outset, just it's not very comfortable. Like, it doesn't look lived in. Her parents wouldn't let her bring anything that was too childish, so she has her books and like these very fancy robes that are uncomfortable and like all of this stuff that like she's doing it, but it doesn't really, it just doesn't fit. Like, I imagine the sleeves are like a little bit too long on her robe, and like she kind of has to like pick it up awkwardly when she's like walking through the hallways and stuff. And but she's pretty talented, and I think that that's what gets her through, is because, you know, she may be rancid butter, but she's on their side of the bread. If she stays there, if they let her go, it's a, as an aside, it's a quote from like my favorite movie in the entire world. I think she's kind of kept on as like a begrudging obligation to some sort of like, what am I trying to think of? Aristocratic history, but like it's not, she just doesn't really fit in. She's too young. She just doesn't fit in.
Okay. There is one of the logs in your fireplace there in your room popped and woke you up. There is almost immediately a banging at the door to your chambers, and you hear one of your teachers yelling through it. It's like, Asala, you're late again.
I think Asala, like, for a moment is sort of taken right back to that place and gets up. And it's like, you know, when you have the dream that's like, it's a Sunday and you're like, I'm late for the big business meeting with Business McBusiness. And you're like, wait a minute. No, it's like, I'm 19 and it's like 2:30 in the morning on a Thursday. No. And I think she sort of gets up and is in those ill-fitting, uncomfortable clothes again and begrudgingly goes along and picks up the books that she thinks that she would need. I think she recognizes the voice and grabs everything and opens the door, sort of preparing for the typical dressing down that she would get.
So you open the door and you step out, and there is a change. Instead of it being your first day, it's your last day here. And instead of there being a teacher banging on your door telling you that you're late, you see a bunch of students running. Your last day was the day of one of the riots. There had been changeover in the upper echelons of the Imperium. And look, when that happens, there's maybe a purge or dozens. It, you know, some of the noble houses get shuffled a little bit, and sometimes schools come a little bit under attack by people who have grudges. What did Asala do that day? Where did you go?
Asala, I think, goes and seeing what's happened, I think she kind of has like a bug out bag of like her most important, the I'm never coming home bag. And I think she grabs it. And I think there are a couple of younger students that are particularly vulnerable. They're there as attempts to make sort of political relationships that with people who were not going to be successful. And I think Asala, having been one of those children who was able to sort of survive, I think that's one of the first places she goes, is she goes to sort of get and help them escape out of the school. And I think that she goes through, she runs to where they would be in the early year sort of area, and doesn't follow where all of the rest of the students are going, because Asala doesn't really want to go home necessarily, because that's probably not going to be a great time. And I think that she grabs them and goes like through like what would be a service entrance, like where like the kitchen is, like not any place that students would ever go. And she begins her escape kind of that way, imagining that whoever wants to hurt them is probably posted up at the most obvious exit to do the most obvious damage.
Yeah. So you get several of the kids, you remember them, and y'all get out through the service entrance, and you're leading them, and you're running, and y'all are going, and you're going down corridors, and it turns into just like kind of mist-filled back alleys and things like that. And you turn a corner, and you're suddenly at your first official posting as one of the Altises. And there is a desk. It's a very nice room. And sitting at the desk should have been the person you were taking over from, who was moving up in the world. Instead, there is one of the three old women sitting at that seat. And she looks at you and just goes, my little mageling. You certainly led an interesting life. And we're going to pop over to Atrian. Now, I'll be honest, I debated which of you two was going to be last. Since the dice didn't choose you two to be first, one of you two gets to be last. And I know what I'm doing with Calyx. So, Atrian, it's your turn.
All right.
There is the same pop of a log in a fire. And when you wake up, Atrian's a Dalish elf, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So when you sit up, you are in one of your first camps that you remember, where your clan had set up. It was one of the more permanent ones. And sitting across from you, who is it? Is it a parent? Is it a sibling? It's going to be the person that you would immediately assume would be sitting with you at a fire at night.
So, if it's from the olden days, it may be Farrell, my brother who passed.
That's exactly who it is. How does Atrian react to this?
With a bit of shock and surprise, as well. Normally, you don't see a dead person in front of you.
Fair point.
You know. And I'm gonna look around, and I'm gonna look back at Farrell. Is that you?
Hello, brother. Sleeping restlessly tonight?
And I'm gonna try to just take a quick look around to see, what is something's weird, something's out of place, something is not right. Because, I remember seeing him dying.
So there's the fire that's going. There's one of your caravan wagons parked kind of nearby you. And beyond that, kind of beyond the ring of light cast by the fire, there's just kind of this slow moving mist. So you can't really see the rest of the camp.
I'm gonna take a look around my neck. I have a pendant that used to belong to him. Is it still there?
It is.
How are you here?
He looks down into the fire for a moment and then looks back up and says, Not really sure. One, he kind of stumbles over those words. Someone, I think, is meddling.
I see. Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry I could not keep my word as intended, but I'm looking for.
Atrian. You know something you learn when you die? We put a lot of pressure on each other, especially on family. And don't get me wrong, I want you to find them. I do, and I want you to make sure they're okay. But I put a lot of pressure on you there, brother. You can't keep them safe from everything. They made their choice to leave. She answered a call to go home. I would have done that. I don't blame you for their choices. I don't blame you at all.
I know, but she's still my responsibility, my ward.
That's true. And if you weren't in the middle of a torrential downpour under some old way shrine tree out in the middle of nowhere in Antiva, then maybe I could throw blame your way. Would you like that? He just like sticks his hand in the fire and pulls out a hot coal. It's like, I can throw blame if you really want to feel the pain.
I'll pass. I mean, is it really dark outside, or?
It's your brain is remembering this as a nighttime setting, but you can't really tell. You can't see any stars or the sky. It's just kind of this swirling mist.
I'm gonna look around. Where are we?
I am still where I have been ever since I left y'all. And you are still under a tree on a trade road. This, I think she meant it as a gift. I don't know that she really gets it. And he just kind of looks around, kind of puzzled.
I'm just gonna look around. Anybody out here? Anybody?
There's not a you don't hear anyone answer directly. Instead, your brother starts to sing a little bit. And I'm trying to pull up the song.
Oh, it's probably a song that I know.
It is a song you would know. It's the song of Andrewill. It's frequently a lullaby. Your mother sang it to the both of you. Sister of the moon, mother of hares, lady of the hunt. It's a common song about one of the gods of elvenkind. Your brother starts to sing that. And you hear this low chorus of voices from beyond the mist very quietly take up the song with him. And he's just kind of looking at you very intently.
Look back, and I'm trying to pinpoint where the voice are coming from. Any voice that I know.
Who in your family still alive? Is it just your sister-in-law and niece?
I mean, technically, my mother is still alive, and there's, actually, my father would have passed, but it's pretty much it. I did not have any brother or sister.
Okay.
Besides,
so you can, one of the voices you pick out, you think for a second is your father, but you're not quite sure. Another one, though, that you can pick out, it's not directly family. It may as well have been. She was the old woman to your clan. Every good tight family community, kind of like like a Dalish clan, has one of these. It's the old woman, the auntie to everybody, or everyone's grandmother. You can hear her voice, and it's probably the clearest one out of all of the others besides your brother. And she's been gone for a while.
Yeah. Now I'm starting to wonder, did I die under that tree?
Do you say that out loud?
Yeah.
Your brother just he stops singing and just laughs. It's just, no, we wouldn't. You would see everyone. You wouldn't just see me. You'd see everybody. And we wouldn't be here.
Any piece of wood sticking out from fire that I could probably grab and use that improvised torch?
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm just gonna try pick one and just see further in the dark in the mist.
Are you gonna step out into it? Are you gonna try to walk out through the mist, or just walk up to the edge of it?
I'm gonna just go to the edge for now and peer further into the mist.
If this was almost any other game that had a sanity score, I would make you roll sanity right now. But this isn't Call of Cthulhu, so
there's technically willpower.
Roll me a willpower real fast to see how you deal with what you see.
Pretty well, apparently.
There are things in the mist. Some of them are very misshapen. Some of them look normal. Some of them are colossal in size. Some of them are tiny, darting everywhere. And from the fire, you hear two voices saying the same thing. It's your brother's voice, and it's the voice of one of the old women. This just says, "Don't look into the mists for too long, Atrian." And we're going to pop over to Calyx. Calyx.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pop. But not like a log in the fire is popping. Like a dry bone is popping under something very heavy stepping on it.
Oh.
And when you wake up, you are not under the tree. And you're not in any memory. You can see the edges of an island floating in space, not far from you. And when you opened your eyes, above you and kind of just at the horizon is the Black City.
Oh, shit. Am I in the Fade?
You're in the Fade again, yeah. Sorry, bud.
Damn it. No, that's fine. Love it. Love being in the Fade. Well, I guess we'll see what's on this freaking island that I can reach. Unless I can think up a new island.
It's the island that you're on. Sorry.
Okay.
You can see the edge of the chunk of land that you're on.
How big is this chunk of land? Am I on
So if you like stand up and look around,
Mhm.
you can't tell. It stretches out in front of you, presumably for some good way. What you can see are kind of the Fade equivalent of trees. So they're not proper trees, obviously. They're like these twisted, columns of what may be wood or what might pass for wood is what you're interpreting it as. Kind of all different sizes and everything. And through them, there is a very clear, very well-maintained path in front of you, paved with cobblestones. You can kind of see them. They come under where you're sitting, go out, and some of them are just kind of one or two are floating out in nothingness behind you. But along that path, there's a temple.
Oh, what kind of temple?
From the studies you've done, you can identify it as very old Elvish
Okay, so
design.
Not like a chantry or anything like that.
No, definitely
No.
not.
Well, that looks worth investigating, at least more so than the not wood. So, I'm gonna walk that way, but
Okay.
I want to kind of be peeking over my shoulder. Are the cobblestone? Is the island disappearing behind me? Is kind of what I'm wondering.
It's not.
Okay.
And in fact, what you can kind of immediately tell is that this is one of the few places in the Fade that is permanent.
Oh,
There is an active will that is maintaining this bit of the Fade. It's not as permanent as the Black City would be.
no.
Like if whatever is maintaining this decided to stop it, it would crumble like you would imagine it would do normally. But something is very much, and you can feel that whatever kind of presence is doing this has been doing this for a long time.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm going to, when I get closer to the temple, presuming that is where this gigantic sense of focus is, Calix is going to go into operative mode and try and sneak up, because
Oh, roll me
Who
a
knows what
stealth
could be
check,
in there.
Calix.
yeah,
Roll me a stealth check in your Fade journey.
yeah. This is the time for him to be a professional.
Well,
That seems appropriate.
that's not really quite going to get there.
No. I didn't expect it. I did not expect this to go well.
No, but
he
boy,
thinks he's sneaking.
that's a valiant effort, and at least you didn't critically fail. You didn't muck it up too badly. So you step into the temple, and you're in operative mode, like hugging the wall, looking around, trying to keep your eye everywhere.
He's making sneaking sounds is probably the problem.
Sneak,
Yes.
sneak. It's very good. At the far end of the temple, there is this beautiful, kind of stylized, maybe a little bit impressionistic carving of a scene of people like sheltering, and they're it's elvish figures sheltering underneath this massive wolf, and above the wolf are these other like colossal versions of the elven figures that are like raining arrows, swinging swords down at it, and the wolf is like interposed between it. There are some almost like pews, almost a little bit like maybe this has the interior adornments of the temple have been a little bit tailored to you almost. And sitting on one of them is a bald elven man, and he's humming some song. If Yeah, the one of the ladies at the fire was singing this song as y'all fell asleep last night. It's the same one Atrian heard his brother singing. It's the song of Andrewil. This man is singing it, but it's kind of got that tone that like someone who has fallen away from their faith might sing a hymn if they had found a cathedral. So it's a little bit mocking in tone. It's not quite as serious, but there's a lot of familiarity in the voice. So maybe someone who had a deep and personal wound with their faith. I apologize if that's too much for anyone listening. It's the best way I can think of to portray the tone. And when he gets to breaking a verse, he just looks over his shoulder and says, "Hello, Calyx."
Are these meetings intentional?
Oh, no, not really. Not the first one, certainly. Ever since then, you're just very interesting. You and your whole little team. What an odd group you've got around you.
Just for my sake of knowledge, like the major players in the Inquisition, are they pretty well known throughout the world, or?
Yeah, this is Solus. I feel like you especially would probably know this, right?
Mhm.
Like if you ever bothered to pay attention to a briefing that came down during the breach, like you probably saw like these are the people the Inquisitor's hanging out with. Weirdly powerful elf. Maybe we should be concerned about it. I don't know.
Got it. Yeah, I guess purely just so like, because in my head, my response would just been like, yeah, in what I have observed, strange collections like that do seem to be effective in getting things done.
He laughs, and it's kind of this moment of like, if this was a Dragon Age console game or something, there would be a little Solus approves. It's just, yeah. Fun times traveling with an odd little group. Frustrating sometimes, but fun. How do you enjoy these little meetings of ours?
I mean, academically, they're definitely a curiosity. I'm very interested in how they happen, especially if they're not fully intentional.
The first one wasn't, like I said. I was honestly trying to kick you out of the Fade before any damage happened or you got stuck there, but magic. And he just kind of like shrugs his hands. It does weird things sometimes.
I don't think I've bothered to ask, is this how you're collecting your congregation? Do you speak to them like this? I keep hearing the elves talking about a call.
Oh, no, Calyx, that's not me. I have my own plans for my people. What the prophet's doing is something else. I kind of did call you deliberately this time. My family was kind enough to drop you into a slumber for me. Meddling. And he just kind of murmurs something under his breath in Elvish. And it does not sound polite. He just turns fully in the pew and looks at you and just goes, "The prophet is going to ruin your world, Calyx."
Just to clarify, Thetis or my personal... I assume Thetis.
He just like laughs and then like muffles his laughter for a second. Just like, fair point. Oddly, if you survived the apocalypse, your personal world would probably not change a whole lot, except that you might be the only one dealing with all the bodies. So maybe a lot of work,
Right.
But
Yeah,
if
I don't-
I've seen anything of you, you prefer the dead.
Right. I don't know that my skills are quite up to that level of production, I guess we'll say, just yet.
Then maybe best that you stop this.
Well, damn, I had been, when we met this prophet, I had been hoping that I would be able to pick their brain about ways to prevent apocalypses.
Well, he would be knowledgeable about such things.
How old is the prophet? They were saying they killed one of the original magisters?
Oh, no, the current head of the house. The
Oh.
original magister is. And he twitches. Like it's a full body, like remembering a horrible, like deep ingrained memory. And he just like has a physical reaction to this memory just because the original magister is far beyond anyone's help at this point.
Right, I wasn't so much worried about helping, as if he could confirm the removal of.
Not
It's-
really our immediate issue. Tell me, Calix, what do you know about Titans? And we're going to go on break while we ponder this question. We'll be back in a little bit, get some water, take a bio, come back, hang out with us, and we're going to finish up our dream sequences because I don't know how to deal with planning out things and pacing, apparently. So despite what I told everybody, we are doing dream sequences all day. We'll be back in a little bit, friends. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. We are deep in Dreamland, and it's all fine. Everything's fine. It's all fine. Calyx, Solus is just looking at you, waiting for your answer to his question.
Yes. What do I know about Titans?
Boy, that's a question. Do you have like history focus or arcane lore focus?
I've got arcane lore for sure.
Roll me that. Let's find out what you know about Titans.
I also I don't know. I forget if they're called talents or whatever, but I am a lore novice.
Ooh.
Which is I have studied hard. When I make a successful cunning test with a lore focus, I get an extra piece of information.
Oh, well,
So-
let's hope you roll well then.
Right. Hey, see if that matters.
Yeah. Hey, what do you want to do with those stunt points?
Oh, what do I want to do with those stuff points? God, give me. I'm going through. I'm like, I need to get past this combat table. I need to get,
Yep. I
I'm
asked
not
that
doing
to
that
give
right now.
me time to figure out what I get to tell you now. Oh boy. Yikes, I feel like Calyx knows a whole lot about Titans for some reason. Is Calyx just like secretly that like mythology nerd on the side? It's just like,
oh, God, 100%. So we've not. One of the reason in my head, each one of the Mortalitasi has a different way for helping the spirits, essentially helping the spirits find the right vessel kind of when they are displaced into our world. And Calyx's thing was always he's had some difficulty communicating verbally with spirits in ways that a lot of the other mages can seem to have no problem doing. So he does a lot of storytelling about the deceased, kind of like almost like learning like the myths that people would want told about themselves, that kind of thing.
okay.
I mean, especially like Navarra is so fucking big on that anyway, with like, here's all the dragons and shit that I killed. Here are all like I feel like Navarra is just boasting the country, and so that he's very much like he's like selling real estate by being like, this is all of the great things this person did in life and learning their stories. And so learning mythology, like that's all he loves that shit. that's his whole bag. That's how he does his job.
I love that. Okay. Did you find anything you want to use stunt points on?
Yeah, why don't we use those on That Makes Me Wonder, so I can immediately make another perception test at no additional cost to discover more information about my surroundings or the object of my test, because I still want to be side-eyeing this temple in the fade.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and roll that for me, and we'll just have that, and we'll do that after I get you some fun lore.
Not so great. Oh, not great, but more stuff points.
Okay. Cool. We will come back to that in a minute. All right, so let's talk about Titans for a minute. I feel like Calyx knows a good bit about it, but it's all very much couched in mythology. And it's all because out of character knowledge, because the Shaperate of the Dwarves has worked so hard to eliminate Titans from Dwarven knowledge, because that's deeply dangerous to their authority and control and power. All of this information comes from Elven stories. And so what you know about Titans is Titans are what made Thetis. Like not in like the creation sense, but in they are what shaped the world physically. And there's some legends about maybe some of them still exist. A couple rumors passed to you that like the freaking Inquisitor was like in one for a minute, but that's impossible. We would know if there was a giant being buried under Ferelden. That's stupid. And plus, like Lyrium's their blood. Ooh, that just sounds like anti-Templar stuff.
Calix would have definitely heard this stuff because that would absolutely. I feel like he's got a series of conspiracy boards at his like home base.
Oh, of
like
course.
for like this whole project of like trying to prevent potential magic apocalypses. I imagine it's almost like the first Men in Black movie where they're getting all their information from like the tabloid stories that nobody believes. It's just like lyrium is Titan's blood. What?
You have your very own Pepe Silva boards. Yeah, so that's very much what Calix knows. Like one of the elven gods just like blew a couple of them up to give the elves a home is one of the stories that they tell, like all sorts of things. So that's what you know about Titan. So how do you answer Solus?
I know in theory they're not supposed to be around anymore, or at least not in a capacity. If they were around in the capacity they used to be, we wouldn't, is my understanding.
True enough. Let's say this instead. Every civilization is built on bones. Every single one. Most civilizations, and he gives you just like a weird side eye, even though he's like looking right at you. It's like most civilizations have the good sense to leave them be. Imagine if someone put a thought into the prophet's head that if he resurrected a Titan, he could reshape the world to suit his own desires of an elven empire.
So many questions. Who would suggest such a thing?
He looks really annoyed for a moment. He's like, I don't know. And it's like his teeth clench on that one. It's just like,
I was mainly just trying to make sure it was not him.
oh,
definitely not. It sounds like
if your reaction is just kind of like, oh, it's not you, then he's just going to kind of be like, oh, no. I have my own plans for the Elvish people. I'm not going to say they're not innately destructive, but they're not physically destructive. I'm a problem you can worry about tomorrow. Today, you worry about a Titan waking up.
Right. So important clarification, because we've said both resurrected and we've said woken up.
Yes.
Which one of those is it? Are they dead or dormant? Because if they're dead and he wants to wake one up, in my line of work, it would take quite a significant spirit or demon to presumably possess a Titan's body, which is a whole nother rabbit hole of bad things to worry about.
You're right. You're quite right. Some places in your world, you could just wake one up. You remember the earthquakes in Ferelden a few years ago?
Yes.
Yeah. My friend the Inquisitor may have prevented one from waking up on you. But
is their blood really lyrium?
He just looks at you and just goes like, where else would it come from? It's not natural. And like what he's actually doing to you is he is quoting one of the conspiracy points on your board right back to you. Because there's, I imagine, like tied to that, you have like a whole like bad magazine that's just like lyrium's unnatural and is corrupting people who consume it. All mages are.
Well, and because it's not, he's also already seeing like the math, the calculations going on in the back of my head of like, oh, damn, now I have to, that source is apparently reliable. That now changes all of these other theories I have to consider.
Yeah, so he's seeing those gears moving, and then he's just like throwing a stick at it just to like kind of
no,
halt
focus
some.
back here. Back here.
But the ones I'm concerned about are dead is probably more accurate. Nothing that big, that old, that he's very careful with how he pronounces this next word, mythic. And he's like looking kind of up and around him a little bit when he says that, just to make sure that he didn't say it wrong. That mythic never really dies, but as close as it could have gotten to death is what happened to it. So, what's the worst thing that you could imagine being used to fill a dead Titan, Calyx? There's still a few old gods lying around there underground somewhere.
Oh god, it's Calyx is having a brain freeze because it's like, when else is he gonna get to ask like somebody who knows as much as Solus all of these stupid fucking theories that he's got? And now he's trying to like, it's just like everything is just a series of like more questions now. It's like, oh, now I have a bunch of questions about the old gods.
Is this confusion visible on Calyx's face? Like this struggle to figure out what question to ask next?
I think so. I think it's just, I think it is that kind of like we were saying before, having to like stay focused on the pertinent thing. Like there's too many other like, not like a scared anxiety type thing, but it's almost like a, oh, here's all of these other things like Solus said to have to worry about in the future. It's like the to-do list for later is taking a while to process.
So Solus like gets up and comes and walks towards you a little bit and says, Calyx, I'll make you a deal if you'll focus up. Survived the next few weeks, prevent the prophet from ending the world, and I will give you a way to come here and ask me any questions you want. It won't even be a harmful method.
I was gonna say that those things normally come with, those are normally the type of deals that you shouldn't make in the Fade without thinking about them. Oh. Right. Well, that all sounds good to me. I was planning on, my goal was to survive the next several weeks to begin with.
It's usually a good plan.
And yes, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in actually meeting a live Titan. As interesting as that potential data set would be, I don't want to be part of collecting it.
That's a wise plan.
What? So he needs something to power this Titan or to work it that he could also control. And he's gathering all of the elves for his plan or to witness his plan? Is this a like... In Calyx's head, it's just like, is there a power in like belief? Like, does he just need enough followers to believe in?
Solus looks at you and just goes, I honestly don't have an answer for you there. I can't go to the old city for my own reasons. And whatever he plans there is unseeable to me. I'll give you this much. If you go into this assuming the worst, I doubt you'll be disappointed. And if it turns out to not be the worst possible option, then hooray, your job got easier. I will give you two last pieces of information before you wake up, Calyx. 3. I'll give you 3. That's the right number, I think. First piece of information. Remember where this prophet came from and the history of that place. 2, should you run into a dwarf named Volta, heed her words carefully. And 3, and he's like slowly walking up to you as he says this, and he's just kind of like right, not like in your face, like nose to nose, but he's pretty close to you now. And he reaches out and puts a hand on your shoulder and says, 3, I've lied to you about a few of these details to scare you into acting the right way. And then he shoves you and you're waking up. And we're going to bounce back to Atrian.
Oh, hello again from the mist.
Hello, the song is still going on, and there were 2 voices that happened behind you at the fire. What are you up to?
Do I see the other person there?
Oh yeah, it's the So as a refresher to everyone, there was 3 old women. You saw them as elvish women. The others saw them as human women.
That's correct.
One of them was older than the other 2. This is one of the younger 2.
Okay.
And she is standing behind your brother with her hands lightly, not threateningly, resting on his shoulders.
Are you the one that brought me here?
I'm the one who provided you this opportunity to get maybe a little clarity in your goals, child.
What clarity is this supposed to bring?
That the choices of others are not your guilt to bear. Seek them out, please. I need you to continue to seek them out, Atrian. But whatever happens, and I don't know what's going to happen, but whatever does, guilt of choice does not lie on your shoulders.
I'll take a moment to just think about those words. Regardless, I cannot stay here, and I'm just gonna turn and look into the mist. I have to follow the path.
There is one laid before you, child. It goes into dangerous places. The woods of Arlathan have never been friendly, especially not these centuries.
I was not expecting it to be. And I'm gonna take a step into the mist.
All right, I need you to do another will roll for me.
Because
Willpower.
Atrian cannot stay here. He has to go.
Okay?
15.
You take a step into the mist, and as you do so, you hear behind you the song fades. And the old woman calls out to you and says, "Keep your eyes on the path, child. You've gone into dangerous places now. And this was literally all we could do to help you. Our kinsmen aided us, but you're going into a dark place now." And the mist kind of parts around you a little bit. And there's a road, a well-maintained, cobble-paved road that is now stretching out. And at points along the way, you see what you know. You've never seen one functional in your life, but you know they are elven waylights that lined the highways of the old empire. You know it in your bones, Atrian. You're on one of the ancient roads, the roads that burned when the Tevinter came. And around you, pushing against the walls of mist like they were glass, are shapes and forms that are screaming. You can't hear the sound, but you can see their faces moving. And they want to get in. And if Atrian has had any sort of long-term conversations with mages or anything, you might know that this is literally shades from the Fade. That you are kind of in a lot of danger right now.
Yep.
But the road you're on seems protected.
All right. Well, I'll switch it, improvised torchlight to my left hand and just hold, still sheeted, my dagger in my right hand and try to avoid eye contact with any of the shade and just follow the path. Just, still paying attention to shit around me because, well, I don't want to, get jumped. Because that would be bad.
So as you start walking, you're covering the distance on this road faster than is possible. It's very much dream logic in place here around you. It feels like. And behind you, once you take a couple steps, you stop hearing the singing, you stop hearing the crackling of the fire, and the old woman's voice is trailed off as she gave you that last warning, and you turn around at one point and you see behind you massive trees with gleaming spires amongst them. And again, like in your bones, like almost racial memory, you know this was the city of Arlathan. And as you're walking down this path, you're going past different spaces that were once towns and outposts and villages that were all tied to Arlathan before the Tevinter came, before the betrayal of Finharal, before all these horrible things that threw this elven civilization down. And it's when you're nearing the end of the road, because what you see in front of you on the path coming up is a tree planted on a hill with a shrine underneath it. And it's like you were shown a map.
I'll approach carefully.
You approach and you see what the area in the hollow under the tree where you're asleep right now would have looked thousands of years ago. It's clean, it's well maintained. The walls and the fresco behind you show pictures of Mithil and Andruil and Solaise guiding people to the great city. And as you're looking around the little way shrine, you turn and you see a very well-maintained fire pit with a pot hanging over it, bubbling. And 3 women are seated around it. They're not old anymore.
But I'm
They're not
assuming,
crones anymore, I
Yeah.
suppose is the better way to put
yeah.
it.
But I'm assuming there's certain distinguishing feature I could probably tell. It's the same ladies.
It is the same ladies. Yeah, you recognize the one who had her hands on your brother's shoulders. All three of them are just looking at you. And it's unnerving. Like, whether or not Atrian believes that they were gods or just very powerful elves, either way, there's a lot in it behind these gazes.
Who are you? Really?
The oldest one laughs and she goes, "You know." And she points at the wall behind you where the fresco is and says, "Come now, child. It took an awful lot of energy for us to appear like this. Don't insult us by not knowing."
Can you take me back? Or is there a way back
Where? Back where?
where my companions are?
The farthest one, the one that hasn't really spoken to you yet, just laughs at you, and it's a beautiful lilting laugh. You feel better hearing it. Like, it's a laugh that brightened up the area around you. It's a healer's laugh.
Yeah.
And she says, "Atrian, you're just asleep." She turns and points to where in your time you fell asleep by the fire and says, "You're right there. Just a few thousand years ahead of us."
How do I wake up?
Once we're done talking. The oldest one just kind of clicks her tongue and says, "Yeah, we wouldn't have gone through all this trouble if we didn't have anything to say."
Is that a warning towards, what is at the end of the path?
The one who had her hands on your brother's shoulder says, "You were determined to walk the road ahead of you, so we showed you a way to go. You know the road now, Atrian. You may not see it anymore. It's long gone. It burned with the rest of the things we built. But you know the road now."
I'm just gonna nod in agreement. Thank you.
They smile, and the middle one, Andrew, says, "You're very welcome, child. The warning was true. You're going to have a hard road ahead of you. Hard choices to make. Your people, our people, or the world, Atrian." And the youngest one looks very, very sad. Tears are in her eyes. And she walks over to you and she kind of cups your face in her hand. "I'm sorry, Atrian. Not just for you, for all of you." And you, as she says that, you can see yourself and your companions, kind of like shadowy images of them lying, sleeping where they were at. "I'm so sorry that it's come to you." And the oldest one says, "Even my brother doesn't want this to happen. The wolf is helping you as much as he can. And she kind of growls that title at you a little bit. You have to make your choices. We all make our choices. Yours may be harder than most.
All right. Well, I wasn't expecting anything to be easy.
The youngest one, who's still cupping your face in her hand, just smiles again. And again, like, you feel the smile. It warms you as it happens. And she says, no, you didn't. And I wish we could have changed it so that you had. But regardless, and she just pats your cheek with her hand, it's time for you to wake up now. Oh, and tell your very suspicious friends the food is perfectly safe.
Which one? They're all-
The middle one laughs and says, yeah, that's the point. The food is perfectly safe. And with that, Atrian is going to wake up. Let's go over to Asala. And in front of you is the youngest of the three women, still crone form. If we were watching this as a cutscene, we would all recognize that this is Selace, the one who was just speaking directly to Atrian. But she is in her crone form once again. For reference, for anyone who may be interested or following along with the Dragon Age Wiki, this is more or less the elven god of healing. She was the one who taught healing magic and things of that nature. She is sitting at the desk where you know the previous Altus to hold your new position should have been seated in this memory. What do you do, Asala? This is now definitely wrong. This is different from your actual memory.
I think that Asala being like realizing that she's playing on somebody else's playground, takes a seat at one of the chairs opposite the desk, like where a visitor or someone she had to speak to would sit. And I think she folds her hands in her lap. And the last thing that the crone said to her was that she's lived a very interesting life. And she sort of cracks like a wry kind of half smile and says, well, I won't insult you by attempting to convince you that you have the wrong mageling, though I would hardly consider my paltry contributions to the larger world to be of any great import.
The crone cackles. Like, it's very much like the Wicked Witch or the wicked enchantress from a Disney movie, just like cackling at you a little bit. And she just says, no, you don't. You've done nothing of import, have you? And it kind of feels like this character is now enjoying the role of crone. Like, she's reveling in it a little bit.
And I think like Asala kind of can't help herself because she is rethinking. She's sort of thinking of some of the mischief that probably would draw the interest of the crone that she has gotten into. Some of, what might be described as light treason. Just a little dash of treason. And she sort of, I think, gives like the same kind of half smile and says, well, I suppose for one with a penchant for and she sort of waves her hand around as if to say, like, this sort of dream quest that you have doing. I can see where you may find my actions amusing. So
You don't even know. Oh, that's precious. You didn't keep up with them? Didn't check in on the children you saved? Not even to make sure that if they did anything good with their life, they would owe you favors like a good little Teventer? Oh, that's adorable.
I think at that, Asala's eyes harden a little bit, and she looks the crone dead in the eye and says, I think you know enough of me in this moment to know that I care little for the system of reciprocity befitting of my station.
The
Though
crone,
I have been one to make use of it when necessary.
the crone practically screams in laughter. She is loving this and just goes, ah, yes, you're so different from the other little conquering mages. And she flutters her fingers like that at you. Did you know, Mageling, that 2 of those children you saved held off a platoon of Templars during the war? And she's suddenly right in front of you. Like she has crossed the desk, is right in front of you in your face, and just goes, they protected children because you protected them. Isn't that sweet? And she like boops your nose.
I think Asala cannot. She like tries to hide a very proud grin on her face. And she like, I think you see that sort of like, she's like moved, her lips are sort of like she's fighting the smile. And she says, I will say it brings me great joy to hear that perhaps a moment of altruism could be associated with their actions.
The crone's face goes to stone. Just instantly to stone. The entire chamber you're in gets blasted clear, and you're standing with this crone in what you recognize as the hallway of a mage circle tower. And it's like a freeze frame moment in time. And you see the grown-up version of 2 of the kids you saved protecting a room full of young mages. And one of them is dying. On the
One
sword.
of the children or one of the adults?
One of the adults that you saved. I will not be harming children in this campaign.
Okay, I just wanted to make
all.
clear.
No children are harmed in the making of this campaign. That is a line for me that I will not be crossing, so no worries there. But one of the adults is dying on the sword of a Templar, and the crone is kind of moving around this frozen image, and she's standing between the adult mage and the Templar who is ending their life, and she has a hand on each of their shoulders, and she's looking at you from between them and just goes, it's like this, isn't it? You raise up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they don't part from it, despite what may be in their best interests.
I think Asala. Oh, can Asala move in this in this tableau? I think Asala goes to the dying mage, and like, I feel like they are like a young boy whose hair was always just like a little floppy on top. Like they could never really quite figure it out. Like whatever like close cropped style just never really fit for them, and it just like was weird. And I think she brushes like hair off of their forehead, like probably I imagine like she had done like 1,000 times, And she says, and she sort of nods, like absentmindedly looking at this scene. And you could tell that she's like really sad that it came to this. Not so much that they like gave their lives in service of people who couldn't, but like that it does come to this. And I think Asala also knows that this is probably what's coming to her too. She's chosen not to hide. She's no longer, well, I mean, she's not that, altruistic, but like she no longer has the option to hide behind the Imperium. And so I think she sort of looks very sad. And she says, it does come to this, though.
The crone has moved behind you now, and her hand is resting gently on your shoulder. And it moves up, and she moves her hand up under your chin, and she moves your head from looking at the mage to looking at the Templar. And she says, Mageling, I didn't just mean the one that you knew and cared about. And she just gently brings your head around to look at the Templar, and his face is terrified. That in this moment, he believed that it was his life or the mage's. That whatever he had been taught or conditioned or mind controlled or brainwashed or programmed made him think that this was the only option. And the crone is now again standing on the other side of these two from you with her hand on the shoulders, and she looks you dead in the eye, Asala, and you can kind of see the years kind of melt from her face a little bit as she takes on the same younger appearance that had been talking to Atrian, and she looks at you and goes, I do not approve of either actions happening in front of you, Asala. Neither are right. Neither are wrong. Both are beliefs. And look at what a belief. And she reaches down and she like pings her nail off of the sword blade. Look at what belief has wrought. And y'all are standing now on a hill in a forest. It's an old, old forest. There are a few stone ruins around, but most of it's gone. You can see what is clearly the blackened soot remains of mage fire on stones. In the distance, you can hear the sounds of battle and screams. And she takes your hand and she squeezes it and says, look at what belief has wrought. And the camera kind of pans out away from y'all. And you can see this. Asala goes with this motion because dream logic's still in effect. And you've been reading that journal you found about the Tevinter mage that was there when Arlathan fell. And you suddenly know that that's what you're seeing, is the fall of Arlathan. And high above this forest that's burning, this elven god holds the hands of a Tevinter mage. And she looks in your eyes and says, please, I need you to remind your friends about the dangers of belief. Asala, you may be the last one who can help them make choices that don't lead to this again. And it's not fair. It's not fair that I have to ask you to do that. And it's not fair that I have to rely on a Tevinter to save my people and save this world. And it's not fair that we had to use up what little power we had left to show you what happened last time a Tevinter came to Arlathan. Please don't waste it. How does Asala react to that?
I think Asala, she's kind of like, she doesn't, not a lot of face cracks with Asala. And I think that like, this has touched something that's very core in her because she isn't a very good Tevinter. And it's the, I'm gonna try not to make my like common like Star Wars reference, but like, it's kind of like, we have the go to the light side, go to the dark side, but nobody has ever tried neither.
Right.
And I think that like Asala is, her mind is like, how about we just don't? We've been doing this same thing for forever. How about we just don't? And so this is like resonating very much with Asala's like internal sort of frustration and unease. And so like she's like very much in agreement. And she says, how can I convince people? How?
Soleil squeezes your hands again and says, no. I'm not asking you to change an empire. I'm not asking you to alter the minds of nobility across this broken world. No, I need you, and you're back at the campfire. And you can see the shadowy forms of yourself and your companions asleep. And she says, no, I need you. And she points at Atrian. And she points at Calix. And she points at Mariana. And she points at Valentina. I need you to convince them. They're all here for their own reasons and their own goals. We're all speaking to them right now. Well, my uncle is speaking to Calix, but that's neither here nor there. You need to help them when the time comes for their choices. And she kind of turns to you again and points you really specifically at Mariana and Atrian. Especially them. The two of them who may have to choose between a person they love and the rest of this world. And I will not tell you which way you should help them decide. But you've seen the harm now. And it's time for you to wake up. And she just gently pushes you, and you kind of stumble over what you recognize as your own sleeping body. And Asala wakes up. Mariana, behind you, in this dreamscape of you and your master at the fire, behind you, you hear your sister's laughter. And your master just goes, time to play tag, I suppose.
I'll jump up and spin around and look where I heard the laughter from.
Behind you now is not kind of the rainy, misty environment that had been there when you looked earlier. It's now a hedge maze. And it was one in Antiva City that was frequently used during the day as a train. Well, I guess actually during the night, it was used as a training environment. During the day, you and your sister would often play in it when y'all were out of training.
Okay. Yeah, so it's daytime out then? Or is it nighttime?
It is daytime, so not training time.
Okay. I will take off running then. If I know the maze, I'll try to follow the laughter, but I have a feel for the twists and turns and where the dead ends are, so I try to avoid those. And coming up to each corner, slowing down and listening and peeking around.
Yeah, you're able to still navigate it. Like, it takes you a few tries to kind of remember it, because it's been a few years since you just ran through it. You're going and you start remembering the pattern, and you remember that there was always one place where, if your sister was the one leading the chase, she would wait in ambush for you every time. Because there was a shallow pond with like a fountain in the middle of it, and she would always try to like wait in ambush to tackle you into the water, and you're coming up on that intersection.
Would I know, is that a blind spot for her? Like, would she be listening for me? Is that
She would
what
be
it is?
listening. Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll make my way towards it, and I'll unbuckle the belt and pouches that I would wear normally on these sorts of days, or if I'm still in my training clothes, that would be attached to that. And I'll approach it and I'll throw it ahead of me so that there's motion past the intersection just before I get there, trying to lure her out.
You toss it and you hear her just go, ha ha, and dive out of the intersection towards where she assumes you're going to be.
I will dive at her at the same time, just kind of T-boning her.
Are you trying to tackle her into the pond now?
Maybe short of the pond.
Okay.
I don't want to go into the water, but yeah.
You managed to tackle her, and she just like screams out laughter and just like, no, you tricked me again.
You make it so easy.
She's kind of like balls her fist and just like punches your shoulders. Not hard, but just like frustrated sibling. At least you didn't throw a stink bomb at me this time.
That or one of the ice ones. Those are not pleasant at all.
She just shivered and go, no, I don't like those.
I think for the sake of everyone else, I should mention that Reina is, she's not human. She's an elf, city elf, blonde hair plaited down her back. And where Mariana has her House of Crow tattoos hidden on her back, Reina wears them on her face.
Okay. She scrunches up her face and just goes, get off me, Mariana. And she like pushes.
Why are we here?
Do you get off of her? Like, do you roll off
Yes.
of her? Or?
Yeah, I'll sit back.
She like sits up and is still kind of pouty, and she just looks up when you ask that and just goes, I don't know. I think I'm dreaming you.
I think I'm dreaming you as well. Where are you?
I'm in a forest. Well, sometimes I'm in a forest, sometimes I'm in caves. I guess they're feeding me, but they're also using potions. I keep falling asleep.
You're a captive.
No. When I'm awake, I want to be there.
I'm coming to find you.
Her eyes get frightened when you say that. She says, no, you can't. That if you're not hearing the call, you can't. Something's singing, and I don't want you to hear the song. and she looks terrified right now.
I have to find you, and the contract is mine now. I can't. You know what happens if we skip out on that?
She kind of gets up on her knees and she like shuffles over to you and she holds out her hands.
I'll take them.
The contract, right? Okay. The client's not one of us that's working. He's just part of one of the visiting clans. I think he might be too important, or maybe he believed in the song and so he doesn't have to work near it. It's finish the contract and go before the song gets you, okay?
What do you mean working? What is happening with you?
We're digging. We have to get to the song. We have to find the singer and the stone. And her eyes start to glaze over a little bit, and her voice starts to change. And she says, because the stone is singing of a home, of raising home again to the sun, of the light through the trees, of making their blood run this time. And she moves her hands towards you, and her fingers are curled. And you wake up. And now we're going to switch over to Valentina. Hello.
Hello.
So everyone else fell asleep after talking to some crones around the fire, and Valentina did as well. When Valentina wakes up, she's in, it looks like her parents' shop, but it's not the one you remember. It's the one they always talked about. You know, there's always, with a lot of the shopkeepers that you grew up around, Valentina, there's always kind of this story, right? Like everyone's like, oh, someday, you know, I'm going to get that good deal. The money's going to come in. I'm going to make this shop the way I want it to be. And your parents had talked for years about what they were going to do. They were going to expand into the building next door a little bit. It was going to be really nice with glass and new metal. And you're in that shop. And who's at the counter? Is it your mother or your father or both?
It's both of them.
How do you react to being in this space?
So I'm probably happy, and I've got like some candy out of the candy jar, and I'm just sitting there, maybe watching the door and just chattering about store stuff.
Now, which one in Valentina's past, when she would do this, which of your parents would get on to you for eating the candy?
Probably her father.
So you hear his voice just kind of rumble from behind the counter. It's like, Valentina, don't eat all of the goods. We have to sell that.
Oh, I'll sweep the floor to make up for this. This candy is too good to just live in a jar. It needs to be free.
He laughs when you say that, and your mother laughs as well and says, Valentina, always our good helper. And she nudges your father and says, she knows the value of treats is not in the money. It's in the enjoyment.
Exactly. And what is money anyway?
Your mother just kind of gestures wildly with her hands. Oh, just something foolish people put so much faith in. Nothing at all, really.
Exactly. You should have candy too.
Do you bring her a piece?
Yes.
You bring her a piece of candy and you place it in her hand. And when you look in her eyes, it's not your mother. It's one of the crones from the fire who's standing there. And she just takes it, she looks at it, and she looks at you and says, "Thank you, dear." And she puts it in her mouth and just enjoys it for a moment, says, "Yes, you're right. That's very, very good."
So this isn't a good dream, is it? Where I have like tons of candy raining on me.
Do you want that? I imagine it would be uncomfortable. And all of a sudden, like, there's a small rainstorm of candy in the shop, and it's bouncing off of you. And the old woman just kind of like hunches her shoulders, like, "I don't enjoy this very much at all."
You're supposed to catch it, but you can not do this if you don't like it. Valentina's like catching handfuls of candy.
Well, I suppose as long as you enjoy the dream, then. Is this what you wanted, dear?
I mean, this is just this was a dream. I just like having candy. It's good.
Yes. I'm sorry. I meant. And the old woman pauses and like reaches out her hand and catches some of the candy and just looks at it and kind of rolls it around her hand a little bit and puts another piece in her mouth and savors it. Why did you leave?
Because I couldn't be who I was here.
Humans. You're still so concerned with magic. And she moves around, dream logic still in effect, and she's sitting on top of the counter now, and she looks younger. This is the oldest of the three crones. This would be Mythal. And she looks at you and she puts another piece of candy in her mouth and just, "Valentina, you are blessed. Did you know that?"
No, but that's good to know. Wish I knew a little earlier, so thanks.
And she laughs. The old woman laughs and says, "No, well, yeah, you're welcome, but magic, Valentina, magic. It's not. Your friends Asala and Calix will tell you and teach you and help you foster this talent as you travel with them, and that's good. They'll tell you about the fade and the dangers of it, and that's also good. But there's something I need you, Valentina, to know. Something the humans don't remember. They're too young to remember."
And how old are you?
There's something that changes in her face and her eyes, and it's like looking at a force of nature for a moment. And she says, "Timeless."
Okay, so you're.
Go ahead.
So you remember, since you're timeless, your age is timeless.
Child, I taught magic to so many. There's a cost to everything in our world, but never forget that it's a blessing. And if you can be the voice that reminds your world that magic isn't a curse, isn't a burden, isn't a price or a punishment, that magic is a blessing, then maybe all of this is worth it.
Sure, no problem.
And she laughs again with you, and she hops down more nimbly than a woman of her age should be able to off of the counter, and she holds out her arm to you to link your arm through.
Oh, Valentina will just link arms and like, I don't know, it's a dream. So she's got like even bigger candy piece that she has in her mouth now.
And Mythil, the mother of Morrigan, the old woman of the wood, who in our time, by as far as we know, has been consumed by Solus, looks you in the eye, Valentina, and says, I can't help you anymore with what's coming next. Myself and my children and my brother have, to some degree, tried to help you and your friends tonight. And I think we've done as good a job as we could. But if you'll promise me that you will remember that magic isn't a curse, then what I will do for you, Valentina, is give you a night with dreams that will anchor you through the dark days to come. Can you promise me that, child?
I promise you that. Magic is a gift.
And she pats your hand where it's linked through her arm, and she goes, all right then. Tell me the next thing that you want out of your dream.
I want to go on a boat that doesn't get sucked into a weird vortex thingy that happened the last time I was on a boat.
And Mythil laughs joyfully at that request and waves her hand in front of you, and the scene dissolves, and you're on a glorious white wood painted with gold highlights mighty ship out on an ocean. And Valentina and Mythil spend the rest of the night, for a good while, living through the best dreams Valentina has had. And at the end of it, at the end of the last one, Mythil takes your hands, Valentina, and she looks in your eyes and says, child, your mind is beautiful, and your dreams are amazing. And I wish I still was in this world to make them come true for you. Those dreams are in your hands now. You are the next generation, and you will be one of the ones to rebuild this world after all of the damage that has been wrought. But right now, it's time to wake up. Resume your journey. Resume your lessons. And she squeezes your hand a little bit, Valentina, and says, and remember your promise.
I remember.
Go ahead.
And I said, I remember, and you can be captain while I'm gone.
Mythil smiles and says, all right. When it's all done, I'll see if I can't be waiting here for you in the dream again. And she reaches one hand up and pats your cheek in the exact same way that your mom used to when you were very little, Valentina. And she says, it's time to wake up. And Valentina is the last one to wake up. And we're going to end it there for tonight. I think I've done quite enough trauma to enough of my players for one evening, and scarred and made many of them think too many thoughts. Boy, I hope they had a good time. We'll find out here in a minute. Thank everybody. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to resume our travel montage next week and get into the Arlathan Forest. We are racing to the end of the story now. Thank y'all for hanging out. We're going to go around the table, and we're going to have everybody tell us what their favorite part was, where we can find them next, and anything else they want to promote or recommend us to. We're going to start with Rafiki, and we're going to end with Janie. So, Rafiki.
Hi. So that was fun. We did not die. That's good. It was an absolute blast. Thank you again. Honestly, it's very hard to pick a specific favorite part because everything was absolutely wonderful. It was great, and I'm very looking forward to next part of travel montage as well. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. But hey, if people are not tired of this phase, they can find me on Thursday on the GR Crew channel, where we'll be ending our TTRPG season for this year with the finale of Titan's Grave. So that should be an interesting climate battle in the end. And other than that, I will be on my friend Deanie Jordan Lee's channel this Sunday for Blazing Dark one shot. That should be also very, very fun. But she will be running on her channel like from Thursday to late Sunday, like a bunch of one shots for charity. So that will be absolutely fun. So if you don't have any plan over the weekend, go check it out.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Next up is going to be Icy Historian.
Oh man, I am still Icy Historian, and I'm still at Icy Historian, all the places on the internet that I feel like being found. Oh wow, I think I love a dream sequence situation, so everything about this was great. I love like mentoring by way of hallucination. Here for that. Yeah, so I think this whole thing was really very much up my alley this evening. I definitely think I liked getting more of Mariana's backstory, because I think as a rogue and as a crow, we're not going to get a lot of like heartfelt moments around the campfire with Mariana willingly spilling. So it was nice to sort of get that way. And it was nice to be asked to think about some parts of Asala's life that I had never really had to think about. So that was really good. Yeah, and you can find me doing stuff, places with people, most of it legal and some of it worth watching. So yeah, that's me. Follow me on Twitter, and I talk about schools and show pictures of my fat cat.
Very, very cool. Anna.
Yeah, Mariana's a rogue, but she's a very personable rogue. If you ask her, she may just tell you. You don't know. But yeah, I'm Anna, aka Archibald Dust Bunny, most places on the internet, queer and trans advocate, museum worker, and TTRPG streamer. If any of that sounds interesting, you can find me on Twitter at Archibald Dust Bun. Where you can find me, or actually, first I'll do moments. Its favorite moments probably a tie between I know my sister's alive, which is really important information. So that's something. But mostly Calyx once again getting yeeted out of the fade by the Dreadful. I think we should have a counter on screen for it, but that's just me.
Every time.
Every time. Yeah, as far as where to find me, it's a lot of places. Friday night, you can find me over on Valdrin's Twitch channel for the first game that I'm in this weekend for Extra Life. We are playing RuneQuest. Praying the Plague is GMing that. Amazing GM. But it's a game from the 70s that technically has an update, but hasn't changed much since the 70s. And we're going to be ducks. So come and watch that. Sunday, you can find me on Gona_Hawking's Twitch channel playing Shifting Echoes, which is our 5e campaign in a world of 1930s technology. I play Lady Wisari's Springfate, who is a noble on the run after a coup. And we are now back in the country that she is on the run from, and things are very tense. So this weekend is a great time to pick it up if you want to see some kind of heist going on. Great cast of characters and cast members there. This Sunday night, I'll be on Valdirn's channel again at 7 p.m. Eastern, playing 5e Oops All Kobolds. A lot of fun. Following the Cult of the Shiny Rock. I will be playing a swashbuckler fighter kobold, which we're all level 14, so as kobolds should be pretty wild. And on alternate Sundays when I'm not there, you can find me on Guild of the Phoenix at 8 p.m. Eastern playing Cyberpunk Red, where I play a overworked med tech, desperately trying to keep a party with the Death Wish alive. Mondays, you can find me at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Weave the Tale, playing Alien Paradisial Lost, which is the Alien TTRPG. Things have been very tense, and we're in the last half of the season, so if you like horror, it's about to get dark. If podcasts are more your thing, you can find me on Response Team Omnicron, which is Lancer actual play podcast, playing through the No Room for a Wallflower campaign. Our first episode drops Monday. Very excited for that. We've recorded a few episodes now. It's an amazing cast. It's going to be worth listening to. And just announced coming soon, Heroes of New Halcyon, which is the City of Mist actual play podcast, following teenage superheroes who have grown up, moved away, and are coming back to a city that they no longer recognize. But if any of that sounds interesting, the best place to see where and when I'm streaming is on Twitter. So give me a follow there.
Very cool. Very cool. Pat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Favorite moments. I mean, just talk, like, how many gods did we talk with this episode? So torn between the super creepy exposition we got on the Stone Song and hearing the call, and then just the whole conversation between Asala and Solace was just friggin' perfect. Like the point Solace was trying to make. It was just a really good scene. I really enjoyed watching that, especially in contrast to the scene of like beforehand, where it was just like, okay, let's just trade arcane information, and it's just like, oh, okay, emotional side of this conflict now, please. Oh, I do things, I guess.
Yeah, you do a lot of stuff. Tell us about some of it.
I'm a Tactric Online. Keep an eye out on my Twitter. I'll be posting announcements about I see Historian and I mentioned earlier, kind of when we dive back into Rubytooth Bay, because we should be starting that back up again soon, just hammering out details. And then for the next installment of whatever show Zan and I started last night, we had our first episode of a show called Burgers and Buds, where we take some edibles and then discuss Bob's Burgers for about 2 to 3 hours. It was fantastic, and so there'll be more of it at some point soon.
Very, very cool. That's good stuff. And last but not least, Janie, hello.
Hi, I'm Janie. I just want to play forever and ever and ever.
I found my.
I forgot what I was going to say, so just play games with me. I promise I'm not as creepy as I sound.
Not at all.
I'm not a creepy doll that goes after people. I'm not actually a mage. I don't know what I'm saying. Follow me on Twitter, JaniePod7575. I'm in a lot of stuff.
Very cool, very cool. And I think your next game is going to be on Thursday here on this channel?
Yes. Yeah, Thursday. Yeah. Sorry. Thursday, and I'm playing Friday at 4 on that Extra Life game. And I think I'm playing Saturday on Polished Cryptid. And I don't know if we're doing Ruby Tuesday on Sunday or not. I heard Pat talk about it and I completely missed it at the same time.
Yeah, we are working out when we're starting that again. We don't have the time.
Okay, and I'm on TPK roleplay in the morning too. Playing a Weird West game, and Monday I'm on the Alien game. I think I got them all.
That seems about right, and people can tune into any of those to hear anything you might have missed. Very, very cool. I am Matt. You can find me here on this channel again on Thursday nights playing in the Star Wars game with Janie and with Raven DMing us. I play a sweet summer child who's growing up and hates it. And I have my own stream, twitch.tv/Fifth Draw Live on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. Currently, we're playing through Fallout 4, and I'm playing a big punchy idiot boy, and it's great. He's such a meathead, and I love him. Jimothy Jones. And I have a podcast called Hard Reboot, where myself and two friends take a public domain property every month and give it a fresh coat of paint. 2 episodes are going to be dropping this week, come hell or high water. It's my own fault. 2 episodes are going to be dropping. It's going to be good times. And you can visit my Etsy shop where I make props like this lightsaber or these things. And reach out to me if you want a prop made. We can talk and do stuff. And that's it for me. So I'm going to kick this back over to Raven, who's going to tell us all about our amazing sponsors.
Fantastic. That was awesome. I really enjoyed watching that. Thank you so much, everybody, for playing. Thank you, Matt, for GMing. Everybody that has come and hanged out with us or hung out with us. Hung out. That's such a weird word to put in that tense. Anyways, appreciate you all being here, and we're going to talk about our sponsors and go on a raid. So our sponsors are Fundamental RPG. It is a simple D20 system that's not tied to any genre, so you can use it to play any style of game that you would like, from high fantasy, D&D-like games, all the way up to sci-fi, and everything in between. It's really pretty cool. You can pick up the physical books on Amazon, or the PDF version at my coffee store. Both of those links are there in chat. If you can't see chat, it's ko-fi.com/Raven, RAVVYN. And yeah, that's Fundamental RPG. Also check out Die Hard Dice. It's our other sponsor. If you use the code ANIMUS with a capital A between, I believe it's today is that it starts, between now and close to the end of December, you can get 15% off instead of the normal 10% with that code. Again, that's ANIMUS with a capital A. And I highly recommend checking out the Mythica Dreamscape Nightshade set. It's a gorgeous metal set of dice with dark purple and kind of some light pink tones to it, with really nice, crisp, dark black lines on the creases and the numbers. Very cool set. There's a link to it right in chat to go straight to that particular one. And then also, something else that's really cool that I would like to share with you all is a Kickstarter that just went live today for a tabletop book called Checkmate. It's one that I've been able to work on. I wrote some of the fiction for it. I'll be making some of the art that's going into it, and I've been helping sort of project manage that a bit. But the link is right there in chat, or if you can't see chat, if you're watching this later, just go to Kickstarter and look up Checkmate TTRPG. I also did the voice acting for the trailer. Just a little bit of trivia there on that. But it's very cool. Again, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to go on a raid. We're going to go raid Nerdsmith, or We Are Nerdsmith, which is a fantastic channel and network. Definitely give them a follow if you're not doing so already. And then I will see you all back here tomorrow, or rather on YouTube tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll be streaming our Blackfeather Paranormal Investigations, which is a tabletop game that's if you're familiar with Phasmophobia, the video game, it's a lot like that, but tabletop. It's very spooky. We're going to be going into a brownstone-style house tomorrow with some very, very scary things going on in there. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, that'll be 6 p.m. Mountain Time on YouTube. Just search for Black Feather Guild and it'll pop right up on YouTube. I think that's everything. So I will see you all then. Bye, everybody.